Hello, everyone. I'm Bo from Brutal Commentary, and today I'm gonna be breaking down our next matchup for UFC Garcia versus Onama. In this matchup, we have Phil Rowe taking on Seok Hyeon Ko. Phil Rowe is 11-5 as a professional, 3-2 in his last five fights. Meanwhile, Kyo is 12-2 as a professional, 5-0 in his last five fights. For Phil Rowe, he's on a pretty good win streak, most of them or all of them by finish, when he TKO'd Jason Witt and then TKO'd Nico Price. Then went on a two-fight skid, losing to Neil Magny and then Jake Matthews. Then his most recent fight this June, he TKO'd Angelosa in a fight where he had to really bring that fight back because he was down 2 rounds, getting out wrestled. But eventually just pulled it out of the fire, and got the spectacular TKO, all things considered. Meanwhile, for Kyo, this is his second fight in the UFC. He fought in the Contender Series roughly about a year and a half ago or so. When he made his debut, but then he made his debut this June against Oban Elliott, where, man, Kyo put on a fucking performance. That's for sure. Dominated Oban in just about every aspect of the fight you can think of, from the grappling, wrestling, striking. Didn't really matter where the fight was. Kyo dominated. That's the best way to put it. Oh, before I go any further, this is not like a collaboration I'm trying to do or anything of that nature. But I do want to quickly kind of give a shout out to Mogo Cage. I believe that's how you pronounce it. What's the word I'm looking for here? The first word of that channel is Mongo, and then Cage. His YouTube channel seemingly is more so about like just Asian media and influencing the Western audiences, like myself, for example. And he made my job a lot easier because he has a video on Kill versus Elliott, which I used a lot for like tape study. So I just wanted to give a shout out for like helping me with my job, because it was a lot easier than constantly trying to Google it and see what I can, because ESPN sucks. ESPN sucks. But without further ado, let's continue. For Phil Rowe, he's got really good boxing. He's got pretty good power too. All of his fights have ended by finish. And one thing about him that is very useful is his physical spec. He's 6'3", with a 80.5-inch reach at fucking welterweight. Man, that is insane. And he uses it to great effect. He's got great distance boxing, good range management overall. And even in close range, he's got some good sneaky weapons, whether it was a jump knee, some nice elbows. And even in the clinch, he doesn't get overpowered as much as you think he would. And is even able to overpower fighters who are seemingly stronger than him, like Angelosa, for example. He's also very good at like posting with his hand and then unleashing. And that is also, like I said, how he defeated Angelosa, like I said, just post and then unleash uppercut after uppercut. Or like with Nico Price, where he, like I said, just used that range to great effect, pick Price apart, and then eventually found the finish. Now, there's always been one consistent weakness of Rowe. That is his grappling defense overall. Now, the Neil Magny fight, it was a pretty close fight. It could have gone either way, but Neil Magny had a lot of control time and took Rowe's back standing for a good portion of that. Then you saw Jake Matthews fight at UFC 302. And Matthews basically dominated on the ground for majority of that fight. Once Matthews got like top position and half guard and whatnot, Phil Rowe, to his credit, he tried to get up, but Jake Matthews is just too much of a seasoned grappler. Now, I will say this, Rowe has been doing his best to improve that grappling, has entered multiple different grappling competitions, even went against Craig Jones and like Gordon Ryan. Now, granted, he got rolled over, but I can respect the man who knows what he's weak at and is literally doing stuff to improve it, like competing in grappling competitions, which I greatly respect in a fighter trying to improve like that. Meanwhile, for Kyo, understand, most of this, what I'm saying, is from either his Contender Series fight and his UFC debut, but also some of this from his regional scene. Kyo is good everywhere. Now, his striking style has more of a McGregor-esque style, hands down, southpaw, kind of just his lead hand, kind of his rangefinder. He throws it out pretty well. Fires 1-2, very similar to McGregor too, kind of that step in, kind of jousting jab, and dips down and throws the left hand immediately after. Kind of that karate-esque style. And he's got, I would say, overall pretty good movement, or sorry, head movement to be more precise, as he's able to kind of move a lot out of Oban Elliott's shots. Like, I didn't really think Oban Elliott catched him at all in that fight. Now, there are some concerns, like he will literally dip his head down like this and stare at the floor as he's rolling his head. That's not something I like at all, because, a fighter's going to realize that, make that read, and then eventually catch him with a knee, because I can see it happening. It happens plenty of times. And, fighting a guy who, now Kyo's 5'10", so doing this with Phil Rowe against a guy who is, much taller than him, and his knee is by the chest, he can literally just raise his knee and catch Kyo with a knee. I'm a little concerned about that. But overall, I think his striking is really good. He can chain his leg kicks with his 1-2 pretty well. And he does have some good power as well. A lot of his fights on the regional scene have come via knockout or TKO. But it is his grappling that really surprised me. For Kyo, once he gets the clinch in, his hip tosses and foot sweeps, his trips and throws are kind of seamless. Getting the tight waist and then using a hip bump to disrupt the balance, and then fully commit to the turn, and then just literally just fling his opponent around like they're a training dummy. And here's how I think of Kyo's grappling. It's similar to Sean Brady's to me, where he has a really good understanding of the flow and momentum of grappling. What I mean is, think of Umar Nurmagomedov, right, last week. Umar can chain together everything at a very high level and chain his wrestling entries and the subsequent techniques he's using in his chain wrestling, right? Go for the single, change the grip, or go for a double, change to a tight waist, that kind of stuff. Kyo is a bit different than that. For example, when Oban went for like a single leg, Kyo kind of recognized the momentum as he's moving in, so he bends his knee, puts all of his weight down, while at the same time, like stuffing Elliott's head down. That's stopping the momentum. Then that residual momentum from the moving, he uses it to spin and then take the back of Elliott. It's similar to Sean Brady. In fact, him and Sean Brady have like some similar versions of how they get to like half guard side control. Whether it's like getting that tight waist on the opponent from the clinch and then literally falling down with the grip still there. And then as they're falling, they literally turn their opponents and then wind up in top position. Kyo's very good at that. So what I'm trying to say is Kyo understands, like, all right, if I turn him there, we're going to have enough momentum to where I can spin him and then end up on top. Or vice versa, Kyo can recognize, okay, his opponent is spinning there or trying to force momentum here. Kyo can realize when to stop that momentum and then kind of reverse the positions. Overall, his scrambling is very good. His top pressure is, Kyo's scrambling is very good. Top pressure, very mean. Good ground and pound as well. And overall, it's just like Kyo has a very well-rounded game. Actually has a Sambo background as well. And there's clearly also some judo as well. Kyo's also, I would say, pretty big for the weight class. Not in the sense of Phil Rowe, who's freakishly tall, but more so like just well-built, has a good frame for 170 pounds. It looks like Kyo fills out that frame very well. Now, watching the Elliott fight and then thinking of this fight, there's some things Phil Rowe is going to be able to do that Elliott wasn't. Mainly, I think Phil Rowe is a better boxer than Elliott and has the better power. I mean, like I said, all Phil Rowe's wins have come via finish. So clearly, he has really good power and good fight-ending instincts. I do believe, while this is at range and on the feet, Phil Rowe is going to have a lot more success with his boxing and will be able to, I think, touch up Kyo for a good portion of the fight. But if or when Kyo is able to get the clinch in, I honestly see him ragdolling Phil Rowe, and Phil Rowe is not going to be able to do anything. Now, Phil Rowe is obviously going to fight back, and he's going to try and get up. But I think of Oban Elliott, like I said, who is, while not as good as a striker as Phil Rowe, is, I do think, a better offensive and defensive wrestler as well as grappler. And I honestly think Kyo if it plays out on the mat, is going to, you know, just do whatever he wants to Phil Rowe like he's a training dummy. That's kind of how I see it. Honestly, I'm very high on Seok Hyeon Ko. When he defeated Oman Elliott the way he did, I kind of went on the train immediately, as I'm sure a lot of people did, because being able to do that on Oman Elliott, who's on a pretty good win streak, in his debut fight, yeah, I mean, it was impressive for sure. Overall, as I said, I do see a lot of paths for victory for Phil Rowe, as I do think he's going to be a somewhat a better striker overall, and could catch Kyo as Kyo rushes in to get in the clinch, or like I said, does some of those bad defensive head movements, like I mentioned, like literally looking at the ground while turning, or sorry, while bobbing and weaving. That's a bit concerning. But I think Kyo is going to be able to cut the distance, and then once he does and gets this fight to the clinch, I think he's going to win the fight. Now, odds-wise for the fight, Kyo is a minus 185 to the plus 150 Phil Rowe. These odds make total sense to me. I say that makes sense to me, but honestly, I just think the odds just really make sense a lot. You know, Kyo has a clear path to victory, and that clear path to victory has been a struggle for Phil Rowe throughout his fighting career, and that is his dominant wrestling and grappling. I think Kyo is going to put on a very similar performance to Jake Matthews back at UFC 302, being able to not survive, but be able to hang with Rowe on the feet for portions of the fight, get his hands on Rowe, and then take him down. That's kind of where I see it. I have been playing with, like, can Kyo get a submission? I don't think so. He's never won a fight via submission. And Phil Rowe, for as bad as his defensive grappling can be at times, and his takedown defense overall, he's actually never lost by submission either, though. So I think this is going to be a decision win. So my official prediction, I'm going Seok Hyeon Ko, and I'm picking him via unanimous decision. But with that being said, that's been my prediction of this, that's been my breakdown of this fight. If you like the video, comment and subscribe. Specifically, let me know what you think of Kyo. How far do you think he can go in the welterweight? And do you think he's a prospect to watch? Or do you think Phil Rowe is going to be able to pull off the upset? Next up, we have Montserrat Ruiz taking on Elise Ardeline. But until then, I've been Bo from Brutal Commentary. Thank you all for listening. Take care.